Rupam tasya kraja muri purim vachurim gushvatam Radha kundam divaram ahuradikaho manavasam Ratu yasya pratita kripaya Shri Guru tam natosmi Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hema Bhadibhyatschave Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Bhakta-vidina aparadalakshmi Nivasakamalikayam namani Kripamaitam sharanam prapanam Vinde namaste charanaya vindam Vinde namaste charanaya vindam Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Hare Krishna Hare Yadava Hare Sakhi Sham Sundar Shukanda Shikha Smarha Smurli Manohara Radhikaras Kamama Kripa Nidhi Supriya Charna King Kurim Tavayvasmi Najvami Toyamina Iti Vikaya Devi Tam Namam Chanantikam. First of all, I offer my Sastang Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers, thousands and thousands of times, at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev, Asmatiya Panoratama, Guru Pada Padma, Nityalila Pravisht Om Vishnupad, Ashtotara Satasri Rupanuga Acharya Varya, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, I offer my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, I offer my pranam to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, my dear brothers and sisters from Chikalpatosa. By the closest mercy of Sri Guran Koranga, we are continuing now with part 2 of our discussion on the subject of citta and prana. So I hope that you studied your notes from yesterday and you're prepared to go a little further. This is very important that devotees try to understand the Siddhanta very deeply. Siddhanta boliye chitte na karo alas, ya hoite Krishna lagi sudadaminas. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Pad, he said that Siddhanta boliye chitte na karo alas. Don't, if there's some discussion and it's philosophy, Yes, we know that our goal is the eternal service of Radha and Krishna, we know that. But if some Vaishnava is speaking the Siddhanta, the conclusions of the philosophy, then Siddhanta Baliya, don't say, call it, this is just Siddhanta. This is not important. But rather, nakaro alas, don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Why? Because Yahoite Krishna lagi sudrida manas. If you hear very patiently Siddhanta from a Tattvavid Vaishnava, then what will happen? The heart will become very firmly fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. And it will open up so many possibilities that are not possible. If you think you will enter into the higher subjects without having a strong foundation, then you are deluded. You are only deceiving yourself. You have to have a strong foundation. Gurudev used to say, build a strong foundation of Tattva Siddhanta, then upon that you can build the beautiful Rasa Mahal, the palace of Rasa. If you try to build the palace of Rasa without a strong foundation, it will crumble and fall. That project will not be successful. So, it's very important to give attention to our foundation. If you take care of your foundation, later your foundation will take care of you. Actually, even as early as 1972, in 1972, Srila Prabhupada wrote so many letters to devotees like Rupanuga Prabhu and Stoka Krishna Prabhu and Damodar Prabhu, saying, 1972, we have enough devotees now. We have enough devotees. We don't have to rapidly expand and have many, many people who don't understand what we're really doing. He said, now I want you to boil the milk. Right? Because if you have milk, you boil it, it becomes thicker and thicker and more tasty, and it becomes rubbery. And condensed milk. So he said, now boil the milk. Otherwise, what happens? You know, in India when you go to buy milk, they always figure out a way how to put water in it. So they can get more money for less actual milk. You can't believe what it's like. They mix it, then you say, no, I want to see you milk the cow. But they'll already have water in the bucket. I'm telling from my own experience. So then when you bust them, hey, you've got water in the bucket before you started milking. You know what they do? Before you come, they inject the water into the oven. In cheating. So like this, we don't want to cheat the customers. So Srila Prabhupada said, you have to boil down the milk. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur used to tell a story that there was a king, and the king had his men excavate a kund. So they dug out a big kund with beautiful steps, but there was no water in it. But the king said, I want to have a lake of milk. So I'm requesting all the cowherd people, everyone should come and put in big, like 10 gallons buckets of milk you should pour into this lake. Everyone, pour in 10 gallons of milk. Tomorrow. So then, at night time, the milkman was thinking, I will lose so much profit from my milk if I give the 10 gallons of milk to the king. I know, I'll go really early in the morning before the sun rises. Very early in the morning. And if I go and with a bucket of water, no one will notice. So then, early in the morning, he came and there were so many other milkmen there, they were arriving with the buckets, and he threw his bucket of water in, and then when the sun rose, they saw it was all water, because everyone had the same idea. So this is what happens. It becomes viral, everyone has the same idea. Let's all just economize, let's all just compromise. And then instead of having a lake of milk, you end up with a lake of water. So building a Sangha is the same thing. Building a community of Vaishnavas is the same thing. So Srila Prabhupada used to say, one moon is worth more than 1,000 stars. Once Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was preaching at Bhakti Kuti in Jagannath Puri, and he was giving lectures every day, and so many people, more and more people were coming. And then after some time, he had some business out of state. He was a magistrate for the government. He had to leave. So he told his young son, Bimala Prasad, our Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, Bimala Prasad, while I'm away, you should give the class. So then, our Prabhupada, when he was young, he came and he was giving the class. But then, slowly, every day, less and less people were coming. And when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur returned after a few weeks, there was just a couple of people in the audience. And he said, what happened? He said, oh, they could not tolerate. Because he was telling a pure Siddhanta. And those who have many material desires and anarthas, they don't want to become close to the sadhu. Sadhu is like fire. They don't want their anarthas to be burned. And so many persons went away. And then our Prabhupada said, better to have an empty cowshed than a cowshed full of sick cows. So, boiling down the milk, this is what needs to be done. Of course, we want to spread. We want that the Vaishnava family will increase more and more. Gotram nu vardatam iti. Sri Thakur said, may the Vaishnava family always increase. We want. But we should be very careful, quality control, to always try to improve the quality of our understanding. So don't be neglectful of hearing the discussions of Siddhanta. Now yesterday, remember we discussed the citta, and how the citta is actually, when the universe is created, the first element, which is very sattvic, is the Mahatattva. And the portion of the Mahatattva which is there in your subtle body is called citta. So citta is the finest of the material elements, and it's the closest to your soul. It is not the self, but it's the closest. And it can become darkened by ego and buddhi and manas and so on. But when it's cleansed by devotional service, it becomes very bright, and you can catch the reflection of the Supreme Lord's beautiful form at the time of chanting. That's Nam Abbas. Nam Abbas produces the vision of the divine realm reflected in the citta. All the stages from Chaitodaparnamajanam, Bhava Mahadavagnivatvapanam, Shreyakarvachandrika Vitaranam, Vidyavadu Jivanam. That means Anatinivriti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti. These are all achieved actually by Nam Abbas. And when Shuddha Nam appears actually on the tongue, it appears along with Vishuddha Sattva. So then, Anandam, Buddhivardhanam, Pratipadam, Punamritasvardhanam, Sarvatmastapanam, these are all the functions of the actual direct appearance of pure name. Sometimes it is said the others are produced by pure name, but it means by offenseless chanting, and the light of the pure name is performing those earlier stages. So, now, what else did we learn yesterday? We learned that our eyes are like cameras and they're filming everything all the time. And it's stored on the hard disk. That's in the citta, in the subconscious mind, all the samskars are stored there. They're all recorded there. So, yesterday we discussed, if a yogi is meditating and he comes to the stage of ekagrata, then he can focus his mind. The attention becomes very sharp like a laser and can be directed to different things. And that's, by directing to different things, he can acquire certain siddhis, mystic powers. So, the concentration on an object is called samyam. It's called samyam. And when you do samyam with a focused mind, then the citta transforms and becomes just like that object. And that is called samapati. So, if the yogi will turn his attention onto his own citta, there all that he can see his samskars. And depending on how deep his meditation is, he may see more and more sanskars of previous lives. So, in the Vyasbhasya on the Yoga Sutras, there's a history. There was a great yogi, his name was Jaigishavya. And Jaigishavya was famous because he could remember all of his lives from the last 10 creations of the universe. So he was he was famous for this. So there was another sage, his name was Avatya Muni. And Avatya Muni he used to wander everywhere, only in a subtle form, invisibly. But just to come and make an interview with Jaigishabhya, he manifested a visible form, and he came there and he bowed before him. Because he wanted to ask an important question. Here's a person who remembers all their lives from the past 10 creations. So Avatya Muni had an important question. The question was, tell me, throughout all of these lives, did you experience more happiness or more distress? More sukha or more dukkha? And without pausing even for a second, without blinking, Jaigishabhya said, it was all suffering. It was all suffering. So that took the Avatya Muni by surprise. Why? Took him by surprise because Jaigishabhya managed to maintain sattvic body and sattvic mind throughout all of those millions of births. So, if you're in Sattva Gun, you feel happiness, you feel a sense of wisdom. And those who are in Sattva Gun, they're much more happy, they have shining faces, they have bright eyes, they're often very learned, and they're not attacked by sins because they're sattvic. So generally, an ordinary person would consider a person situated highly in sattva. What to speak of a yogi who's so much in sattva, he has all the mystic powers as well. So you would think he must be happy. So then, the Avatya Muni, he asked him again. He said, but in all these lives, having a sattvic mind and feeling the contentment from that, and having the mystic powers, did you not experience some happiness? And Jaigishabhya said, yes, it's true that the happiness that comes from Sattva Gun, relative to the happiness of the life of sense gratification, is superior. But relative to the state of mukti, being liberated, it is all suffering. Because even Sattva Gun is the product of Prakriti, the temporary material nature, and cannot be compared to the Ananda of the soul. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatva Nasochati na Kankshati Samaksaveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labate Param. So here, the important point is, Sri Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that Sukha Sangena Badnati Jnana Sangena Chanaga. O sinless Arjun, the person who is in the mode of goodness, he becomes bound, he becomes conditioned by a sense of contentment, a sense of happiness. Sukha Sangena Badnati, he's bound by the association of material happiness. Jnana Sangena Chanaga, and also Gyan, he has wisdom. He can discriminate between matter and spirit. Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam. From Sattva Gun comes Gyan, knowledge. And it's of a negative variety. In other words, you can understand what you are not. By Sattva Gun, you can understand, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not the intelligence, I'm not the ego. But you cannot positively understand what you are. So, in this way, we should know that we have so many sanskars of many, many lives in the subconscious mind. Only some of them are activated right now. And that's what we call our personality. And then others become activated gradually, lifetime after lifetime, and then others become dormant. So we discussed yesterday about sanskars. We discussed about what is prana. Prana is the sutra tattva. And how the prana is interwoven through the citta, and the movements of prana in the citta, they're called citta vrittis. And they are the cause of all of our thoughts, our feelings, our ideas and perceptions. So, then, after describing this type of ontology and metaphysics, this theory, we moved on to the subject of how is this relevant to us, specifically in bhakti. And we just discussed how Srila Rupa Goswami describes the appearance of bhav Srila Rupa Goswami Pad describes the appearance of Bhav, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryangsu Samyabhak Ruchibis Chitta Masranya. The chitta, which is making the structures that we're perceiving now as our perceptions of the world, it melts. With the taste, I want to serve Krishna, I want to meet with Krishna, I want to have the Surit Bhav, the feeling of well-wishing, always, only for Krishna. So, this is the appearance of Bhav. But then he elaborates on that and says, Avir Bhuya Manobrito Brajanti Tat Surupatam Swayam Prakash Rupapi Vasamana Prakashavat. By saying, the appearance of Bhav means that Shuddha Sattva, that is Samvit Briti, and Visheshatma Ladini Briti. So the function of the consciousness potency and the pleasure potency of the Lord combined together, they, Avirbhuya means they make their appearance, just like an avatar comes to this world. Those two energies descend to this world, but where do they appear? Manobriti, in the Chitta Vrittis. In other words, you have movements of your mind caused by the gunas, but now by engaging in bhakti, there is a descent of Samvitan Ladini Briti, and it enters into your pran and now takes over all your thoughts and feelings. And that's how you have realizations. Anubhuti, Anubhav, realizations. So, Avirbhuya appearing where Manobrito, in the Manobriti, that means Chitta Briti, Brajanti Tat Surupatam, the Bhav, Tat Surupatam, attains a oneness with your Chitta Brittis. Then Swayam Prakasha Rupapi, and itself manifests the visions of Sri Krishna. And also the joy. It is the Samvit that gives you the vision of Krishna. And the Ladini that expands your consciousness with the joy of the service mood. See, the two together. So, now, this is as far as we got yesterday. So now we'll move on to some more interesting ways, important ways in which understanding Pran and Chitta is essential to understanding the Siddhanta. So first of all, let's look at this verse. Everyone knows this verse, very famous. Sattvam Visuddham Vasudeva Shabditam Yadiyate Tatra Pumam Upavrita Sattvecha Tasmin Bhagavan Vasudevo Yadoksajo Me Namasa Vidhiyate. Sattvam Visuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. Very famous verse. Who spoke this verse? No? Fourth canto. Lord Shiva. It's in the context of, there was the Daksha Maharaj was about to perform a yajna, and all the guests had arrived there, and Lord Shiva was there, but Daksha himself had not arrived yet. So when Daksha Maharaj arrived, everyone stood up. And he was, oh yes, everyone is respecting me. But Lord Shiva was still sitting down. So because he was basically his son-in-law, so the son-in-law has to give respect to the father-in-law, even though actually Lord Shiva is unlimitedly greater than Daksha Maharaj. But by family relationship, we could say like by bodily relationship, Lord Shiva was in the junior position. So Daksha Maharaj took offense. And he criticized and he cursed Lord Shiva. And as you know, there was a huge chaos after that. So afterwards, Lord Shiva is explaining to Parvati why he didn't stand up to give respect to his father-in-law. And he said this verse, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. He said that Namasavidiyate, I am always bowing down to the Supreme Lord within my heart. Namasavidiyate. Because actually, when we bow down to someone, we are bowing down to Krishna in their heart. Jive saman dive jani Krishna adishtan. Mahaprabhu said, give respect to everyone. Whether they're junior or senior, everyone. Why? Because you know that Krishna is in the heart. So, in a family relationship, the wife honors the husband, the children honor the father. But the principle actually in Varnashram Dharma is that it's the Paramatma in the heart who is being honored. That is the actual principle. Because as soon as the husband dies, then what do? You don't bow down to the body, you put fire in his mouth. Ram Nam Satyahe. Set fire to it. So it's not the body that's being honored. It's the presence of the Supreme Lord who is there along with the soul. So, essentially here, Lord Shiva is saying, I didn't have to stand up to give honor. I was already giving honor. I was already bowing down to the Supreme Lord in the heart of Daksha, in the heart of everyone, internally. Because actually Mahadeva at that moment, he was in samadhi, he was in trance. So because he was in trance, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatva, his heart had melted and he wasn't even aware of what was going on. He didn't even know that Daksha Maharaj was there. But it would be superfluous, it would be redundant for him to come out of his trance and bow down to Daksha Maharaj, to the Paramatma in his heart, because he was already seeing Krishna in his heart and bowing down to him in his trance. You see? Now, that's the background of the story of the verse. But one of the important point that we're discussing today is Satvam Vishuddham, Vishuddha Sattva, that is Bhav, pure existence, is known as by the word Basudev, not Vasudev. Vasudev is a name for Krishna. Is known by the name Basudev, it's a short A. Basudev means Vishuddha Sattva, the pure consciousness of Bhav. So, he said, Yadiyate tatra puman apavrita. In that state, puman, that is the Supreme Purush, the Supreme Lord, apavrita, is uncovered. The Supreme Lord is apavrita, uncovered in the state known as Basudev, or Vishuddha Sattva, that is Bhav. So Srila Jiva Goswami Pad comments that what does this mean? That you can see the Lord uncovered. Because then it raises the question, what does it mean to see the Lord covered? Because it's not the same, either you see the Lord or you don't see the Lord. Right? So if you don't see him, you don't see him. But if you see him, there's no need to say that he's uncovered. Because if he were covered, then you're just not seeing him. So just this word pumam apavrita means you see the Lord uncovered, indicates you can also see the Lord with a certain covering. And what is that covering? That is, you see the abhas, the reflection of the Swarup of the Lord in the citta. So from the stage of Nishta, and then in Rujana Sakti, you can have the vision of the Lord reflected in the citta, but it's not considered to be direct. It's the abhas. But nevertheless, it's a vision of a divine reality. That's why Rupa Goswami Pad in Krishna Namastikam, what does he say? In the third verse, Yadabaso pudyam kavalita babadvanta vibhavo drisham tattvandanam api dishati bhakti pranainim janastasyo datam jagati bhagavan nama tahine kriti nirvakta kaya mahimanam prabhavati. Oh, what learned person can properly glorify the holy name when even the first appearance of Namabhas swallows the darkness of material existence and gives one a vision of the spiritual reality and the nature of eternal service. Dishati bhakti pranainim. You see? So, even if someone will chant offenselessly with faith, then they can have the darshan of the Lord, but it's not pumam apavrita, it's not uncovered, it's considered to be covered in a certain way, in the sense that it's a reflection. But it's quite good, huh? Not bad. If you see a reflection of someone, let's say someone's coming around the corner and there's a mirror there, you don't see them, but you can see them in the mirror. Quite good. But when Bhav, the reflection is in the citta, so when Bhav comes, the citta melts, and then you have a direct experience of Sri Krishna. That's the significance of this verse, you see. So unless you understand the citta and prana and how this is connected to the appearance of Bhav, then without this foundational understanding, you have no idea what Lord Shiva is speaking about in this verse. Understand? Let's look at some other siddhantas where this is a tattva, is important and relevant. Here, this is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is in relation to samskars. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad here is discussing the eligibility to taste rasa. You know, raso vaisaha, rasam evayam labdhanandi bhavati. The Taittiriya Upanishad said the absolute truth is the embodiment of all rasa. And when you attain that rasa, then you have the supreme joy. But what is rasa? It's a common word. Devotees use it a lot. But to actually taste rasa requires an adhikar, a very high level of qualification. And Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, here in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, is defining that adhikar. So, you know that rasa has 5 ingredients. The sthayi bhav, your foundational mood. Then vibhav, the things that incite your devotion. And sattvic bhavs, the bodily transformations of ecstasy. The anubhavs, the reactions such as singing, dancing, shouting, rolling on the ground. And anubhavs also include for gopis, the smiling, glancing. And all of their pastimes actually are the manifestation of their anubhavs. That anubhav means reaction to the bhav, reaction to the love that one is feeling. And there's the sanchari bhavs or vyabhachari bhavs. They're transitory assisting emotions. They're like waves, different types of emotions that rise and fall, sometimes mixing together, sometimes clashing with each other. So these are ingredients. So when the devotee is chanting deeply and he's going into trance, when he can experience, directly perceive those ingredients, that's called bhavmoy bhakti. Because he's experiencing the 5 types of bhav. Sthayi bhav, vibhav, anubhav, vyabhachari bhav, sattvic bhav, anubhav. He's experiencing, so that's called bhavmoy bhakti. But it's still not rasa. But when Vishuddha Sattva comes like a flood, and he makes more advancement, then all those ingredients, they mix together. The 4 bhavs, they nourish the sthayi bhav and produce a chamatkar, astonishing taste. And that's called rasa. Then it becomes rasamayi bhakti. So it's very advanced. So who can go into that stage of actually relishing rasa? Rupa Goswami is saying here, praktanyaduniki chasti yasya sad bhakti vasana isha bhakti rasaswadas taisaiva ridijayate. So bhakti rasaswada, the aswad, the tasting of bhakti ras, ridijayate, appears in the heart of that person who praktani aduniki chasti. He has sad bhakti vasana. He has the samskars of bhakti. Aduniki means in this life, now. He has impressions, deep impressions of bhakti in this life, and praktan means from the previous life. So not only from this life, one has to have impressions of bhakti from the previous life. And not only just, say, preliminary impressions, but here, yasya sad bhakti vasana means one has to have, in his meditation, had experience of the sthayi bhav, rati. That's nishta, ruchi, asakti, and then this rati comes, which is the sthayi bhav. That impression must be there in the heart from the previous life. And still in that life he may experience the bhavmayi bhakti, but not rasamayi bhakti. And then in his next life he gets more impressions, and by the samskars from the previous life and that life together, he becomes qualified bhakti rasa swada, to taste bhakti rasa. You see? So if someone is speaking about, I'm very rasik, we're all rasik, let's all relish the rasa, you know, then the question arises, you must have already been in bhav from the last life that you'll be qualified in this life. You see? But if a person doesn't understand samskars, what the sanskars are, and what the samagris are, the ingredients of rasa, and so on, then they can understand the actual eligibility and the qualification which is necessary, as expressed by Srila Rupa Goswami in this verse. So, is it beginning to grasp how the very basic things Just the basic thing, your citta, your prana, your sanskar. Once this is in place, only then do you have the access to the deeper and deeper siddhantas. Let's move on to another subject. Very interesting. Here in the 11th canto, Sri Krishna is speaking about Shabda Brahma. Shabda Brahma. And he's saying, Shabda Brahma Sudurbodham Pranendriya Manomayam Anantaparam Gambhiram Durvigayam Samudravat. The transcendental sound of the Vedas, Shabda Brahma, is the Durvigaya. That means very difficult to understand. Because it is the Anantaparam, it is unlimited. It is Gambhir, profound, Samudravat, like an ocean. But this Shabda Brahma, Pranendriya Manomayam, it manifests on the level of Pran, on the level of Manas, on the level of Indriya. And so here, Sri Krishna is describing that Shabda Brahma manifests on different levels. Okay, we can look at another. Oh, let's go back a little bit. So, in the commentaries, and also it's described in the Rig Veda, that Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound, manifests on 4 levels. They're called Para, Pasyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikari. So perhaps you remember yesterday, remember we were discussing, when we were discussing Pran, how the Pran moves in the nadis, the channels in the body. There are 72,000 nadis in the body, but here we're just illustrating the main nadis, that is from the Muladhara chakra at the bottom, all the way up to the Sahasrara chakra at the top. The one that goes straight up the spine, that is called Shushumna Nadi. Sri Krishna has said, oh, the Yamuna river is so dear to me. This Yamuna Nadi is my Shushumna Nadi. in Shastra, Krishna says this. And so then you have on the left side, the moon side, the Ida, and on the right side, coming from the right side, and they both go intertwining like this. But coming from the bottom of the left is Ida, and from the bottom on the right, Pingala, and they cross over like this until they meet again in the top, you can see. So these are the 3 main nadis. Now, how does Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound, appear in this world? It first appears to Lord Brahma, but the way in which it appears to him, it also comes to us, manifests in us, in an analogous way also, in a similar way. So, here, let's look. Here we're just putting the names of the chakras there, from Muladhara chakra, Swadhisthana chakra, Manipura chakra, Anahata chakra, Vishuddhi chakra, again, Sahasrara chakra. Now, first of all, when Shabda Brahma appears, it appears in the Muladhara chakra as a movement of prana. And just we can say, let's just put the subject of Shabda Brahma on one side for a moment. Let's just consider ordinary sound when you speak. When you are speaking, it doesn't start from here. If anyone is a singer, they know it starts from down here. Right? So when a person just has the desire to express something, the first thing that happens is there's a movement of their prana in the Muladhara chakra. And then that movement of prana rises up to the Manipura chakra, and it enters a mental phase. The phase of the mind, wherein the person is visualizing what it is they want to say. And then it rises up to the Anahata chakra, and the sound comes to the Buddhi phase, the phase of intelligence. In other words, the vision of what you want to say is now actually taking the form of words, grammar, and syntax. Right? You have to form sentences with a noun and a verb and a subject and an object and adjectives and adverbs. So the first level of sound is called para. Then pasyanti, you see it on the mental level. Then madhyama, in the level of the heart, buddhi. And now it's become actual different words and syllables. And then it comes to the Vishuddhi chakra. And now when the pranas come here, from there it manifests from the mouth. That is called Vaikari, the sound that you can hear. Because you can't hear the movement of the prana. You can't hear the sound on the mental or intellectual platform. You don't hear it until it starts to come out of the mouth. Because the prana is moving up and it's pushing the air. And as the air is moving, it gets blocked by different parts of your mouth. And depending on which part of the mouth is blocking the air, it will produce a different sound. So let's say in Sanskrit, all the letters of the alphabet are arranged, not like A, B, C, D. It's like a random arbitrary thing. They're arranged according to the shape of your mouth. So the first row of letters, they're called the kanchas, they're the gutturals, they come from the back of the throat. So ka ka ga ga, ka ka ga ga na, ka ka ga ga na. Like this. And then the palatals, the ones that come more from with the tongue touching the roof of the mouth. And then you have the dentals, the ones where the tongue is touching the teeth. Ta 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 ta. So ta ta ta. When the tongue is on the roof of the mouth. Ta 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 na. And you have the labials, the coming from the lips. Pa 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 ma. Like that. So you can feel it. If you say the letters instead of going in lines across, you do from top to bottom, then you can feel it coming from the back of the mouth to the front. From the back to the front through each stage like this. So all that is happening is the air, the prana is forcing the air up, and then your throat is blocking the movement of air sometimes at the back, sometimes at the middle, sometimes with the teeth, sometimes with the lips, like that. And that's how all the sounds come out. So that's called Vaikari, audible sound. Now, when Shabda Brahma appears, the Shabda Brahma is, remember, we heard about Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva is coming, and it mixes with your prana. So that's how Shabda Brahma comes. Shabda Brahma is, the vritti of Shabda Brahma is becoming one with your prana. And it starts in the Muladhara chakra. So in that phase, if you look here, you can see, the first appearance of Shabda Brahma is the phase on the level of prana in the Muladhara chakra. And that phase of Shabda Brahma is called para. Then as it rises up, it makes its appearance the Shabda Brahma makes its appearance in the mind, on the level of the mind, in the Manipura chakra. And it is called Pashanti. And then it rises up to the Anahata chakra. And now this is on the level of Buddhi, and that level of sound is called Madhyama. And then you can see it comes up to the level of the Vishuddhi chakra, and this is on the level of Indriya, on the level of your external senses now. And it is a Vaikari. Vaikari is the name for the audible aspect of sound. So the actual transcendental holy name cannot be perceived by our senses or our mind on any level. Atashi Krishna Nama Dina Bhavat Graham. It's not that the Shabda Brahma, you can't hear the three, but you can hear the fourth one, because it's on the level of the senses. The Shabda Brahma is only heard by the disciple who is surrendered to his guru. He actually hears the Shabda Brahma because he's surrendered. There's no vyavadan, there's no obstacle to his ear, so it pierces the material covering of the ear and produces the spot dharma. You see? So, this is actually how Shabda Brahma reveals the divine reality. So, the holy name is a Shabda Brahma. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we pray, Na Kali Kalera Dhamma Krishna Nama Sankirtan. This in this age of Kali, the Yuga Dharma is Sankirtan. And the Kali Kali Krishna Rupa Nama Avatar. Krishna descends as the Nam Avatar. So how does the Nam Avatar descend to this world? When you are sitting chanting, if you're chanting Nama Parad, it's just your own pran, Rajasic pran moving and making the sound. Hare Krishna, Krishna. But if you are actually surrendered to Guru and you have pleased Guru and Gauranga, then when you chant Hare Krishna, then that vritti of Shabda Brahma, just like in the other verse, it takes over your pran. And so the holy name descends, and it first descends on the level of para, and then pasyanti, then madhyama, then it comes out and dances on the tongue, like this. So this is how the Krishna in his Nama avatar makes his appearance in this world. Yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, real quick. So the yogis talk about these chakras, right?
Yes.
But as devotees, we don't have to follow that process.
But this is not a question of following a process. Yogis meditate on chakras for various reasons. But we're not talking about meditate on any chakras for any reason whatsoever. What we're speaking about is just the way in which Shabda Brahma or the holy name appears. So all you have to do, you just have to chant the holy name.
And this process kind of...
We're just describing how it appears. Just like if you say you could say that in Treta Yuga, the Supreme Lord appears in Ayodhya as the son of Dasarat Maharaj and Kaushalya. Or in the Dwapara Yuga, Krishna appears as the son of Nanda and Yashoda. So at any time, when you give up the offenses to the holy name, the Nam avatar appears, and he appears where? In the Muladhara chakra, by becoming one with your pran. He's actually appearing in the form of aprakrita pran. The holy name is a supernatural pran, and he appears like this, and then comes out from your mouth like this. So is this just, you don't have to make any effort or remember anything like this, but this is the description that Krishna has just given in this verse when he's speaking. You see, Shabda Brahma is difficult to understand, the pranindriya manomayam, and it is of the nature of a pranic level, an indriya level, a manas level. So this is what I'm describing is Sridhar Swami and Vishnu Thakur's explanation of this verse, which is discussing the appearance of transcendental sound. Oops. So, I keep going too far. Maybe, is there a back button? I don't know how it works. Okay, there we are. So, this is how the holy name appears. So how wonderful it is, you see. Now, in relation to your question, it's a very good question. The yogis, they're doing pranayama. They're mechanically trying to control their pran in order to steady the mind. Because the pran is the interface between the mental body, the senses, and the external world. In fact, in Vedanta Sutra it's described, the soul is sitting on the throne of the Anahata chakra, the heart chakra. And just like a king has some subjects or ministers around him, next to our soul is atomic, but the senses are also, the original form of the senses, they are also atomic in nature. So the sense of taste, smell, touch, everything, their original forms are atomic, and they're like atoms surrounding the soul. And the Kriya Shakti of Pran carries the power of the senses through the nadis all over the body. You see? So the forms of the senses are in the heart, but the sensory powers are spread out everywhere, so you can feel, you can see, you can touch. And it's the Pran that is carrying the powers of the senses throughout the body. So this is described in Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivang so jivaloke, jiva bhuta sanatana. Now here, manasastani indriyani prakriti stani karshati. The soul, prakriti stani, is situated in prakriti, and karshati means he's drawing towards himself manashastrani indriyani, 6 senses, that means 5 senses plus the mind. So you all know that verse. But here karshati means he draws towards himself. Why? Because the soul actually doesn't need material senses. But because we have the spirit to enjoy the material world, just as a magnet draws iron towards itself, so the soul, by his will, is drawing the atoms of the senses towards himself as the instruments by which he can try to enjoy the material world. That's the meaning of mana shastrani indriyani prakriti stani karshati. Karshati means he attracts, he draws towards himself. So that's how this verse of Gita is explained in the Vedanta Sutra. Understand? So the yogi, what he's doing, because the prana is giving the energy to the senses to go out into the world, he's trying to withdraw everything. So he does yam, he does niyam, he does asana, now he does prana, he tries to control his prana. So by controlling the prana, he can withdraw the prana from empowering the senses which are going out. So the next stage is pratyahara, you see? So he's controlling the prana first to withdraw the energy of the prana which is going out and empowering the senses. So then he does the pratyahara, and by doing the pratyahara, becoming disconnected from external distraction, he goes into dharan. So he's mechanically trying to make the mind concentrate. And when concentration deepens, it becomes dhyan, meditation, and then samadhi. Those are the 8 limbs of Astanga Yoga. Now just see, without doing any asana, pranayama, pratyahara, anything, how the devotee achieves everything just by chanting Hare Krishna. Why? How is that? The yogi is trying to control his prana and his mind, but what happens? When you chant the holy name offenselessly, then first the light of Namabhas comes, and then the pure name comes, and the holy name appears as aprakrita prana, supernatural prana, and it takes over your prana. So the appearance of the holy name achieves more than thousands of years of pranayama. So first it takes over your prana, and then it rises and takes over your mind and your buddhi, and then the holy name comes out of your mouth. And then when it comes out of your mouth, it goes in your ear, and your mind and buddhi hear it again. So it's controlling. First the holy name is totally controlling your prana, and then on the way up, and then again on the way down, it's completely controlling your mind and buddhi. And that's why Krishna said, Yogi nam api sarvesham madgate nandratmana Shadavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamomata. Out of all the different yogis, the devotee who's always serving me in his heart with great faith, he is the greatest yogi of all. You see? So yes, there's no need to do chakras and this and that and pranayama and all of these things. It's all automatically achieved by chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. If you say to a person, just Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, the holy name is the only way, just chant Hare Krishna. But they cannot, in many cases, they cannot put faith in it. But if you explain, actually, you know this yoga you're doing, you can get many, many times more, unlimited benefits, the same and much more by chanting Hare Krishna, and this is how it takes place. You see? So, our acharyas, and this is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, the different levels of sound are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. The verse we're speaking of here is in the 11th canto, but there's also a description in the 12th canto of this as well. That is where Sutta Goswami is describing how the Vedas appear in this world, and he describes how they come through all these levels, and the spot dharma. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Is that clear to everyone? Yes. Shri Harinam Prabhu ki Jai! Okay, this is just to recap some of the ideas we've already discussed. Here's the body. You can see the body there, and the prana is the interface between the body and the mind. Now, in this graphic, you can see, let's take this whole area as the citta. So the area which is kind of illuminated, the yellow color here, that's your conscious mind. If you're taking photographs and everything, it's okay, you can, but you might get Paramatta's hat in your photo. So just send an email to me, I'll send you all the slides for free. Okay? It's yours. So, that's your conscious mind. And your conscious mind, you see, is affected by the prana is going both ways. It's affecting your mind, or your mind through the prana is moving the body. You see? That's the arrow there. So the prana is going both ways. Your body is affecting your conscious mind, and your mind is affecting the body as well. right? But your conscious mind isn't the whole story, because there's the rest of your citta, which is storing all the impressions of so many creations, thousands, millions of lives, countless, anadi, without beginning. But the samskars in the subconscious mind are all also divided into two. The active impressions, and those are the ones that are coming into your conscious mind right now. Every day, some memories or feelings are coming from the subconscious into the conscious mind. Those are your active impressions. And then there are the dormant impressions. So those are the impressions that are not active in this life, but perhaps in the next life, some of the dormant ones will become active, some of the active ones will become dormant. And they make your way into the conscious mind, and then you think, oh, I want to be an astronaut or whatever. I want to be a dancer or a singer or a footballer, whatever everyone thinks their dreams are. It's just the impressions of past life coming into the conscious mind. And that's how karma works. You see? How is it possible that you're born and the astrologer on your birth sees your chart and he can calculate that, oh, when you're this so many years old, this will happen to you, and then you'll do this, and then this will happen. So, but you're saying, how can that be fixed? Because I'm making decisions in real time. And if I make a different decision, a different result will come. No, because all these sanskars, they're standing in a queue, and they're coming on time, one by one, and you can see it from the chart. So what you think is free will, and you're choosing and making decisions in real time, is just actually being completely, strictly, tightly under the control of karma. And to not understand that is called to be an illusion. Think about it. Think about it. You see, but it's not in our karma to, instead of being dictated by our own sanskars, to be dictated by the order of Sri Guru. So as long as we follow the instructions of the spiritual master and pure Vaishnavas, then we'll not be under the grip of karma. We become free. We become Jivan Mukta, liberated even in this life. Because we're no longer the victim of our previous sanskars. Now, here we're just adding one thing to the graphic here. Aprakrita Pran, the supernatural Pran, the holy name, the Vishuddha Sattva. It comes and it enters into the citta and overtakes everything, and then it takes over the pran, and then it overtakes the body. And that's why Mahaprabhu said to Prakashananda Saraswati, I am not singing and dancing. The name makes me sing and the name makes me dance. And this is why we say Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. May there be all victory. That means just like if there's a kingdom and another king comes with his army and he invades, he wins the battle. Winning the battle is just Jai, it's not Vijay. Vijay is when he wins the battle, then he moves in and he sits on the throne of that former king, and he appoints his own ministers over all the departments of government. He's totally controlling everything. So Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam means that Nam Prabhu descends, takes over our whole pran and all of our senses and all of our activities. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So we can see here the aprakrita pran comes, it takes over the manabriti, it overflows from the mind into the senses, and from the senses into the body, and makes us dance, makes us sing, makes us cry, all of these things. And now we're understanding what anubhavs are and sattvic bhavs are. Okay, let's have another look. Oh, very interesting. Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is amazing. Okay, this is a verse spoken by Krishna to Uddhav, and Krishna is explaining here the appearance of himself in the form of Shabda Brahma and how he appears on the various levels. So Krishna is saying to Uddhav, Sa Aisha Jivo, he who is the life of everything. Krishna is speaking about it. He who is the life of everything, that is Krishna himself. Vivarat Prasuti. Prasuti means makes his appearance. Just like the maternity ward is called Prasutigar. That's where the babies make their appearance, Prasutigar. So here, Vivara Prasuti. Now Vivara literally means a cave, like a secret cave. So he's saying, myself, who give life to everyone, first, in the form of Shabda Brahma, I appear, Vivara Prasuti, I appear in the cave. Here the cave means the Mooladhara Chakra. Pranena, in the form, it is on the level of pran. Goshena, Gosh means sound. So, by the form of sound, on the level of the pran, in the Mooladhara Chakra, see Krishna appears. Guham Pravistaha. And he enters into the heart. Manomayam. He said, I come to the Manomayam, I come to the level of the mind. On the level of the heart. All the things we discussed before. Shukshma. That is a subtle form. Shukshma Upaita Rupam. And then Matra Swarovana Itista Vistaha. And then it becomes situated as the speech that you can hear. So Matra is the duration of a sound. You see, if you say Basudev, then the first syllable is a lagu, it's short. But if you say, that's like Krishna's father, Basudev also. So Krishna's name is Vasudev. Vasudev means son of Basudev. It makes it possessive in Sanskrit grammar. So let's say the first syllable, ba, that is a short. And Basudev is long. So these are called the matras, the duration of the sound. So the sound is manifest as long and short syllables. Then swara means the syllables the syllables themselves. A, I, u, like that. Sorry. Varna means the syllables. And the swara means the intonation, the pitch. You know, when you chant a Vedic mantra, there's a low, middle and high. And you have to go up and down with the three pitches. So here Krishna is saying, first I appear on the level of pran in the Mooladhara Chakra, and then I rise up on the level, I come to the level of the mind in the heart, and then I manifest as long and short syllables of various pitches, and that's how Krishna appears as the Vedas, all the Vedic mantras. You see? Now, what's fascinating here is that this verse is the answer to a question given by Uddhav. And what was the question? The question wasn't, oh Krishna, tell me about the 4 levels of sound. It was nothing like that at all. It was a completely different question. So let's just examine the question. What was Uddhav's question and what triggered, what stimulated him to ask this question? Okay. Where are we going? Yeah, okay, we just discussed that. Yeah. Okay, that was on the four levels of sound. We're going to backtrack just a little bit, and we'll return to the Uddhav's question. Here, I just want to show how, you see, in this previous picture, the pran is moving in the chitta, making chitta vrittis, and that pran overflows from the mind into the senses, into the body, and causes the bodily activities. Now, when Vishuddha Sattva enters into your pran, it enters in the manobritti, and also that Vishuddha Sattva, the pure bhav, overflows into the senses, and it overflows into the pran in the body. And when the pran in the body is moving around, it touches the different elements. So in your body there's earth, water, fire, air, ether. And so when bhav, which is being carried by the pran now, touches the different elements of the body, it causes the different ecstatic reactions. So this is from our Srila Gurudev's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. This is a diagram is from our Gurudev's edition of Vishnu Thakur's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. And Gurudev said that when he was young and he was still living in his home, he was always chanting. First he was a Ram Bhakta, he was chanting Ram Nam, and he used to cry and tremble and shake and have And he would wonder, well, what's going on? How does that happen? That question was in his mind since he was very young, because he was experiencing the ecstatic symptoms. And when he came to his Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Kesha Maharaj, and he studied Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu under his guidance, then he was so happy. Gurudev said, then I finally discovered, what is this? When you have these divine feelings of love, why does it produce these bodily reactions? Rupa Goswami exactly describes it. So he shows here, when the prana is in contact with earth, then it produces stamba, becoming stunned. When the prana touches the water in the body, then it causes ashru, the tears to flow. When the Vishuddha Sattva, that is bhav, which has become one with the prana, it's taken over the prana, touches the fire in the body, it produces two reactions. One, swayed, you get hot, because it touches the fire, you get hot and you start to perspire. And then, Vaivarnya, that is the fading of the complexion, one becomes pale. And then when it touches the akash in the body, it causes pralay, that's when the devotee faints, loss of consciousness. And when it touches the air in the body, if it's only a mild appearance of Vishuddha Sattva or Bhav, then it makes the hair stand on end. If it's more intense, it makes the body tremble. And if it's a very intense appearance of Bhav, then it causes Swarabhed, and that is the faltering of the voice. Nayanam galadashudaraya vadanam gadgadarutaya gira pulakarnititam vapukada tavanama grahane bhavisyati. So that verse of Shiksastikam is describing how the holy name takes over the prana and causes the appearance of the realizations, the bhavs, enters into the elements of the body and produces all these ecstatic symptoms. Okay. Now we're returning to why did Krishna describe 4 levels of sound to Uddhav? And this is why. Krishna's left Vrindavan, he went to Mathura, he left Mathura, he went to Dwarka, he did all his Dwarka pastimes for many years. And so Krishna's now about 125 years old. To try to counteract the curse of the rishis that Yadu dynasty would be destroyed, Krishna went with all the Yadu men, all the young warriors, they all went to Prabhas. And as you know, there's a Maya Leela. It didn't really happen, but it was shown to the world to cheat the materialists, that the Yadus, they became intoxicated on rice wine and they fought with each other and they killed each other. So now they've all become unmanifest from the world, and Krishna's sitting beneath a tree, leaning on an ashwata tree, and Uddhav is coming to him. And Krishna's just about to leave this world, and Uddhav is asking questions, and Krishna is instructing him, and these are all the instructions of the 11th canto. So when it comes to the subject of different levels of devotees, Krishna is speaking about different levels of devotees, and he's going higher and higher and higher, and then where will he end up? He has to remember the gopis. So he begins to glorify the gopis to Uddhav. And as he's glorifying the gopis, he says this verse, Ramena sadam maturam pranite. Are you getting me on the screen on? Huh? No need. No edit. Huh? So, Ramena sadam maturam pranite sopalkinam maya no rakta citta vidda Viddagada bhavena namevi yogo tivardiyanyam dadashu sukaya. Krishna saying, Ramena sadam, along with Ram, along with Balaram. That's important, because Akrura came and he was trying to Akrura came to Braj, he was trying to persuade Krishna, you have to come to Mathura. But Krishna didn't want to go. But Vasudev is the father of Balaram, and he's being tortured in the prison by Kamsa Maharaj. So Akrura went to Balaram and persuaded Balaram. And then when Balaram agreed to go, then Krishna, we brothers, we always do everything together. So he agreed. So Ramena Sadam, along with Balaram, Mathura Pranite, Swapalkina. Swapalki is the name of Akrura. His father's name was Swapalka. So Swapalkina, by Akrura, Pranite, I was taken to Mathura. So it's described, along with Balaram, Akrura took us both to Mathura. Then at that time, Mayanurakta Chitta, the Chitta, again it keeps coming up, the Chitta of Braj Gopis is Anurakta. That means deeply attached to me. Vigada Bhavena, with Garda means deep, and Vi means intensely deep. They have intensely deep bhav, deep love for me at every moment. So, na mevi yogo tivradyonyam. Tivra adaya means they experienced, when I left, the gopis experienced extreme distress, extreme pain. And in viyog, in separation from me, anyam, dadrishu sukha, they did not see, dadrishu means they did not see, sukhaya, a cause of happiness. Anyam means another. So basically Krishna is saying that because they were so much deeply in love with me, once Akrura had taken me away, they could not see anywhere in the world any source of happiness. In other words, every last hope of happiness was, every possibility of happiness, not hope, they have a little hope, but every possibility of happiness was completely destroyed because they have no selfishness. They never think about their happiness. Their happiness is only Krishna's happiness, and if they can't give happiness to him, then their whole life is worthless. So they're undergoing tivra adi, extreme pain in their heart. So Krishna is describing this. He's glorifying the love of the gopis to Uddhav by basically saying that they love me so much, they have no separate happiness other than serving me. But what struck Uddhav was the word dadrishu. Dadrishu is in the perfect tense. So the perfect tense is used in Sanskrit for something that is completed. So that they did not see any other form of happiness anywhere means that after I left, they were not seeing any form of happiness up to a point, but now they do. Right? Because it's a completed action. You follow? It's a complete action. So Uddhav just noticed the tense that Krishna's used there, because the implication of that is that Krishna, who's been in Dwarka for so many years, he didn't go back to Vrindavan he did not stay in Vrindavan. The gopis are there, they're suffering, and he's here. But Krishna's saying, no, they're not suffering. Their inability to find happiness came to an end, indicated by the use of the perfect tense here. You understand why Uddhav was confused, a bit confused? So then Uddhav said to Krishna, "Oh Krishna, my mind is not clear. I am confused." He didn't say what he's confused about. Why? Parakshabhada vedoyam balanam anusashanam. Paraksham mamacha priyam. The parakshabhad, that is the indirect expression, is very dear to Krishna. And the Vedas glorify Krishna, but indirectly, because the common people are like children. And they can't understand. Balanam anusashanam. But here what's appropriate is Paraksham mamacha priyam, that Krishna, he likes the indirect expression. Because rasa is more relishable when it's indirect, when it's covered. Just like a woman may be very beautiful. If she's naked, she can be very beautiful. But if she's covered with a very fine cloth that is a little bit transparent and the beauty is just peeping out, it creates some curiosity. And then that's considered to be more beautiful. So in the same way, rasa which is hidden is more relishable. Raso gupta eva hi rasatvam apadyate. Balabhacharya in his commentary on Subodhini commentary on Bhagavatam, he says that when rasa is gupta, it's hidden, then it becomes so relishable. It attains a great relishable state. So Krishna is describing the love of the gopis, and Uddhav, he notices the tense here, and he says, "Krishna, I'm confused. Please explain to me. Explain to me, because I can't understand. How is it they love you so much? They can't live without you. There's no happiness for them, but their suffering is over. But you're with me here in Prabhas, and they're so far away. What happened? What's the mystery?" So he doesn't express the question like I have just very openly, but because Krishna's Rasik and Uddhav is Rasik, he will just say, "I'm confused, Krishna, please explain it." And then because Krishna's Rasik, he's going to explain to Uddhav the answer to his question, but he'll also do it in Parokshavad. So what did Krishna say to answer Uddhav's question? We already discussed it. This verse, Sa Esha Jivo Bharo, myself in the form of sound, I appear in the Muladhara Chakra, and then on the level of the mind, and then manifest in the matras, the lengths of the word and the intonation and the syllables, like this. That was Krishna's answer. Now everyone's going to go, what on earth is Krishna talking about? And that's typical of a conversation between Rasiks. When Rasiks get together, those who are not Rasik, they can't understand what's going on. Just like when Mahaprabhu was dancing at Rathayatra, he was quoting this verse, mundane poem about a woman who was fantasizing about how she wasn't so well behaved before she was married. And she secretly snuck off with her boyfriend and they met in a secret place. But then she happened, fortunately enough, to marry the same person later. And now she meets with him all the time, but she's saying, oh, we're still together and everything, but it's not so exciting like it was when it was, forbidden. And Mahaprabhu was singing this verse in front of Lord Jagannath. And those who are not Rasik are watching, think, what's going on? But Rupa Goswami, he could understand. The bhava of Mahaprabhu became in his heart and he explained everything. He revealed it to the world. So Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Nena Bhutale. So in the set now, Uddhav and Krishna, they're having this conversation. And Krishna said something, the tense of one verse has made a surprise to Uddhav, and he wants to know the explanation, but he doesn't express it, just said, I'm confused. And then Krishna starts talking about the 4 levels of Shabda Brahma. So only the Rasiks can understand it. So let's have another look at the same verse. Here, Saisha Jiva, that's Krishna who gives life to everyone. Vivara Prasuti, that means he appears from the cave. So the first meaning is, he appears in the Muladhara Chakra. But now, it means this. Bivara means a cave, a secret place. That is, Krishna means my apricot lila. So, from my apricot lila, Prasuti, I appear. Goshena, this is in the instrumental case. Instrumental case can indicate by, but it can also indicate with. I appear with Ghosh. What does Ghosh mean? Ghosh is the name of a cowherd village. Ghosh is the cowherd village or the cowherd people also. So Krishna said, from the apricot lila, I appear with my cowherd village, and they are what? Pran, my pran. The residents of Vrindavan are my pran. And after performing my pastimes, Guham Pravista, I enter, Pravista means I enter, like Nikta Lila Pravista, I enter Guham, the secret place again. So Krishna is describing, my apricot Lila is going on, and then I manifested in this world with all my cowherd people and the village of Braj, and all the Brijvasis who are my pran, and then the Prakat Lila then again becomes apricot. But when it becomes apricot, it still remains present. How? In a Shukshma Roop. You see? Shukshma Roop. In a Shukshma Roop. And that Shukshma, the subtle form, you see, if a pure devotee goes to Vrindavan today, even though Krishna's Prakat Lila was over 5,000 years ago, by their meditation they can see they can experience the apricot Lila. You see? So he's saying, and when I go back into apricot Lila, I'm still present in a subtle form that cannot be perceived by ordinary persons, but manomayam. When the pure devotees are doing manasik seva, then they can experience me. And what do they experience? Matra. The word matra can mean senses. They experience my senses. Swara. They experience the sound of my voice. Because swara means saregama padalisa. They're called the swaras. They hear the sound of my voice, the sound of my flute. And varna means varna can also mean form. Or color. Krishna varna, Trisha Krishna means color. They experience my form, my color, the sound of my voice, my flute, my senses and activities. So even someone in this world, through chanting the holy name, can experience my apricot lila. So if you take this verse, this other meaning, now Krishna is answering the Uddhav's question. How is it that the suffering of the gopis came to an end? And the answer is this, that when from Dwarka, Krishna went to the gates of Mathura to fight with Dantavakra and Viduratha, after he killed them, he crossed over the Jamuna in his chariot to Lohavan. You see, because after visiting Kurukshetra, the Brijbasis, when they returned to Braj, they didn't go back to their homes. They camped in the forest of Lohavan. Have you ever been to the place where they were camping? Come on, Brajmanda Parikrama, it's coming soon. Kartik. The last place we go on Parikrama is the last place of Krishna's Leela. It is a Krishna Kund in Lohavan where the Brijbasis were camping. And they were camping there because there was a road that went from Hastinapur, where the Pandavas were, in the direction of Dwarka. So after the Brijbasis came back from Kurukshetra, they thought, when will we see Krishna again? When will he see? We don't know. But we know sometimes he goes to visit the Pandavas. So he may pass on this road. So they were camping on either side of the road, just waiting there, hoping that one day they'll see a golden chariot whiz by and they'll go, so all the Brijbasis are camping there, just with the hope that they can wave to him as he goes past on his way back to Dwarka. So eventually, after killing Viduratha and Dantavakra, Krishna put down his weapon. Because he used chakra, put them down and he never used weapon ever again. That's why in the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna was not using any weapon. Put down, he never picked up a weapon again. And he crossed the Jamuna and he was on his chariot. And the Brijbasis, they saw in the distance, dust was being raised in the air. And Krishna was blowing his conch, the Panchajanya. And they thought, who's coming? Could it be Krishna? Is it Krishna? And just with the hope that it was Krishna coming, they just see the dust, they can hear the sound of the conch. And they all went running. They were running in the direction of that dust. And as they were running, as they got closer, they saw a flag that was sticking out of the dust. And what was on the flag? Who was on the flag? Exactly wrong. It would be Hanuman if it was Arjun coming, but it wasn't Arjun coming. Remember? That's Arjun's chariot. Who was on the flag? Garuda, yes. That's why I asked Krishna. I knew someone would say that. So, as they were running, they saw the flag sticking out from the dust. And then when they saw it wasn't Hanuman or anyone else, it wasn't a tal, it wasn't a palm tree, because Balaram had previously visited. He's got a palm tree on his. They saw that it was Garuda. And as soon as they saw it was Garuda, they knew it was Krishna. And the ecstasy that they felt that moment was so intense. You know, we just heard what happens when the prana touches the element of earth. What happens? Stamba, you become stunned. So they're all running, and as soon as they saw it was Garuda, it was so intense they all froze like statues. They were in full sprint, and that was the intensity of the sattvic bhav. Krishna's coming. And they all froze. But they were in so much ecstasy, they didn't know that they'd stopped running. In their heart, they were still running. And then the chariot pulled up. And Shukadeva Goswami has described that moment, the meeting of Krishna, final meeting after such a long time. Krishna came home. Shukadeva Goswami described that moment. Jayati Janani Vaso Devaki Janmavado. Devaki Janmavad. It's just a theory that he's the son of Devaki. Actually, Janani Vas, he's come to live with his Nija Jana, with his own people, not those Kshatriyas in Dwarka, with his own people in Braj. Jayati Janani Vaso Devaki Janmavado Yadubara Parishatswar Dorbirasan Dharmam. He's removed the dharma, adharma from the world through his associates. Stirachara Brijanagna Susmita Shri Mukena. And now by his beautiful smiling face, he's taking away the suffering of all moving and non-moving living entities. All the cows, all the trees, all the creepers, all the birds, all the flowers of Braj were burning in separation, and now just by his smile, all their suffering has gone away. Brajapura Banitanam Vadayam Kamadevam. And he's awakening the romantic love in the hearts of the Brajapura Banita, beautiful gopis of Vrindavan. So that's the moment of Krishna's return. And so Krishna met with them, and he stayed there for a few months, and then he made his Leela become aprakat. The Prakat Leela became aprakat. So the Brijbasis don't know what's Prakat and aprakat. They're just living their life. Krishna came back and they're going on. But it becomes invisible to the vision of us in this world. So if some person were happened to be there at the time and wandering through the forest and saw Krishna and the Brijbasis, then they would just become unmanifest. But actually, they went into the aprakat. For them, they don't know any difference. So, and then when Krishna, that is Vrindavan Krishna and all the Brijbasis went into the aprakat Leela, Krishna expanded in the form of Dwarkadish, got on the chariot and went back to Dwarka, and so many pastimes went on, and then they came to Prabhas, and now he's with Uddhav. So when Krishna said the suffering of the gopis, or he implied that the suffering of the gopis had come to an end, Uddhav said, well, I went to Vrindavan, they were suffering so much without you, and they're still there. And by saying this verse about Shabda Brahma, which has a double meaning related to the appearance of the Prakat Leela, and then the Prakat Leela going into the Aprakat Leela, through this verse, Krishna is giving the answer, don't worry about the gopis, I already went there and I'm with them eternally in the Aprakat Leela, and they're with me there now. So they're happy now. But my Prakat Dwarka Leela is still going on. And so that's how Krishna answered Uddhav's question. Now there's something more. There's something more, very beautiful. Something more very beautiful I want to say. Because this verse describes the 4 stages of the appearance of Shabda Brahma, but it also describes in a parallel interpretation the appearance of the Aprakat Leela, Krishna's Leela in the spiritual, manifesting here, and then again the Prakat Leela enters into the Aprakat Leela. So that's described, you know the verse? Om Purnam Madaha Punaminam Purnat Purnam Udachati Purnasya Punamadaya Purnamiva Vasishyati. See, Krishna is Purna Brahma Sanatanam Yanmitram Paramanandam Purna Brahma Sanatanam. Aho Bhagyam Nanda Gopa Prajokasam. Nanda Maharaj and all the coward village are so fortunate, Gops and Gopis, because they're the family of members of the Purna Brahma. So Om Purnam Adaha Purnamidam means that Krishna is the complete and inexhaustible absolute truth with his associates in the Aprakat Leela. Purnat Purnamudachte. And from the complete comes the complete. In other words, Krishna and all of his associates in Vrindavan, from that Aprakat Vrindavan, it's not that it comes here and it's not there anymore. From the complete comes another complete. The whole Vrindavan and all the associates as well. So the gopis are simultaneously here and there at the same time. But they have what is called Abhiman Bhaid. The gopis who are there only know that I'm there. The gopis who are here only know that I'm here. So, Purnat Purnamudachate Purnasya Purnamariya, and then the complete enters back into the complete. So that verse of the Ishopanishad is describing from the Aprakat Leela, the expansion of everything in the Prakat Leela, and then the re-entrance of the Prakat Leela into the Aprakat Leela. You see? So this verse is describing the same thing. Now remember, one interpretation is describing how the Shabda Brahma appears from the divine plane into this world, into the form of audible sound. And another meaning describes how Krishna from the Aprakat Leela comes into the Prakat Leela. But the reason why these 2 parallel meanings are there in the same verse is because the ontological sequence in which both take place is exactly the same. Just as Shabda Brahma from the spiritual world comes through the ontological phases of Pran, Manas, Buddhi, and then it becomes revealed to the senses of people in this world, so Krishna's Aprakat Leela comes through the same sequence of ontological layers to become visible to the people of the world and disappears in the same way. And one who understands this, Krishna described in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha chaktva deham puna janma neti mam eti surjana. For one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, upon giving up this body, he never takes birth again in this material world, but he comes to me. Actually, chaktva deham puna janma na. Sometimes it's translated, upon giving up this body, he does not take birth again, but he comes to me. But a deeper meaning is, chaktva deham puna janma na. Not when he gives up his body, but as soon as he understands in tattva my janma and karma, that means my birth and my lila, he comes to me as soon as he understands it. You see? So let's say you are here and you understand this, then you immediately go to Krishna. But what does it mean to really understand this? It means to chant the pure holy name. Because the principle, the way in which the holy name descends and the way in which Krishna Lila manifests in this world is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Abhinatvam nama nami, no, there's no difference. But the one difference is this. When the apricot Lila manifests through these ontological layers and becomes visible to the world, everyone can see it. But when the name descends, it's exactly the same thing, but only the person who's chanting sees it. That's why Vyasadeva, when he was remembering the mantra given by Narad Muni, he saw how Krishna was born and how he killed Putana and Trinavarta and everything, and all the leelas of Krishna. Because it's exactly the same thing. How Krishna actually appears from apricot to the prakat lila, and how the holy name appears, which is not different, comes in the same way. But it's a common thing for everyone who was in the world at that time, 5,000 years ago, at the end of the Dwarpa Yuga, in the 28th cycle of Manus. And when it's visible to everyone at that time, and when someone chants the pure holy name, it's exactly the same thing, but only the individual sees it. In his manomayam shukshmama, he sees the subtle form of the lila in his citta, like this. So, this is Nam Tattva. Gaur Premanande. Actually, I prepared another about 4 or 5 slides. So, maybe in the evening we'll discuss. Because there's so much more that you can learn. Just by understanding Citta and Prana, like this, it has applications higher and higher. So we've come to a certain level today. Perhaps in the evening we'll go even further into what Rupa Goswami has described in Ujjwala Nilamani in this regard. Is everything clear? Everyone? So I'll just sing just a few Mahamantras, little kirtan at the end, and then if you can sing Yashomatinanda. There are many devotees who want to meet with me and just personally have some discussions. So I'll just sing a few and then I'll go and I'll meet with the devotees and go through that while the kirtan's going on. So excuse me, because the days, there are a lot of devotees and the time is running out, so I have to try to fit them all.